Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. And if you're new here, well, that's exactly what I do. Now today we're looking at a new camera that I purchased. It is the Canon R7 and here it is. And it is the aps-c 32 megapixel camera. It takes the RF mount. Now this is a new road for Canon because the RF mount has been particularly designed for their full frame cameras, such as the R5, the R3, the R6, which I'm filming with close-up shot on the R6. But they've introduced two aps-c models. One is the R10, which I've got up there. That's filming a sort of a generic wide shot of the studio here, and that's got my old EF 10-18 lens fitted to it with the EF to RF adapter. It works great. The autofocus is great. I'll leave a link up here somewhere. Take a look at that after you've seen this video. Take a look at that video of the R10, my initial thoughts of the R10. Now, this is my initial thoughts of the R7. And as I purchased the R7, because, well, two reasons. I was really impressed with and I'm really impressed with the R10. But I was looking for a camera that had two SD card slots, which the R7 does have two SD card slots, UHS 2 SD card slots, of a high-speed SD card slots, and image stabilization. Because the R10 has no image stabilization, where the R7 has got in-body image stabilization. It's not reliant on the lenses, where with the R10 it is reliant on having image stabilization in the lenses. And for example, the 16mm lens that I really enjoy using, the 16mm lens has no image stabilization in it itself. So when I used it on the R10, I had to make sure I set faster shutter speeds to get a good sharp image, where I don't need to worry so much about that on the R7 because of the image stabilization in the body of the camera. But I have found some idiosyncrasies with this lens using it on the R7, and I'll cover that in just a moment. Now, this is not going to be a detailed video. It is more an introduction video as to how I am finding the handling of the R7. And it's my favourite camera, no doubt about it. It's my favourite camera I've purchased from an ergonomics point of view and a handling point of view. It is beautiful. It's a really nice grip. It's lovely grip. In fact, my little finger does slide underneath. I'm quite happy about that. Don't have an issue with that. It's compact. It's not particularly heavy. I'll put the weight in the video, what the weight of the body is. So it's an ideal travel camera. I purchased it also because I wanted it to complement my R6. So when I do go out, I can take my R6 and I can take my R7. And with the R7, I should probably leave the 16mm lens fitted to it. Even though that's a full frame lens, fitted to the R7, that gives it about 25mm. And that's a lovely general purpose sort of wide angle, but not ultra wide, and I really like that. That for me works great, and I've used it a lot on the R7. What I will do in just a moment, go through a few of the images I've taken in the garden, some sample images I've taken with the R7, so you can see how good the camera is. But I would highly recommend you take a look at those images on my Flickr page. I'll leave a link in the description of this video where you can find the images on Flickr, and that would be the easiest way of looking at them, and and it'd be much better quality looking at them on Flickr than it would be looking at them on my YouTube channel. That's why I don't go into detail with them on any of my videos, because it's a bit pointless really. YouTube's compression does spoil the quality of the photographs. So on the top, it's a very traditional top plate. It hasn't got the display, but it's got your PASM dial, and they haven't got a control wheel on the back here, which you would find on a lot of cameras like the R6, the R5, and Sony's, Panasonics, etc. It's got one control wheel on the top here, or control dial, whatever you want to call it, for controlling the aperture or shutter speeds. And on the back, they've, instead of putting it there, they've put it around the focus selector. So when I first saw that, and I saw quite a few reviews, I first saw that and I thought, not so sure whether that would work. I thought I might keep knocking it. I actually like this design. I know the design of this is polarized really. Some people like it, some people don't. For me, it works for me great, because where my thumb lands on the camera and I'm using it, it lands quite nicely just to be able to turn it like that, and that is great for me. I've got it set for exposure compensation, so if I've got it up to my eye, I can very easily adjust the exposure compensation just by turning me thumb on the dial. Although to be fair, it's just as easy if it's on the back as well. So I'm kind of polarized as well. It doesn't make any odds to me where it is, but I've got used to it on the back here and I like it there. Joystick control for selecting your focus points. You can use it for other functions, but I've got mine set up for selecting your focus point. But I like to use the drag feature, touch and drag, and I'll explain that in just a moment, but I prefer that. And on the top here, instead of having that control dial, it's got the on-off switch, but also that same switch takes you straight into video. So you don't have to find the video position on your PASM dial. There is no video position on the PASM dial. So that is great. So if you want to do some quick video clips, you can flip it straight over to video and you're there. And I think that is, I think that is awesome. I find it's really good, but I do find when I'm in video and I want to turn the camera off, I stitch it one position. I think I've turned it off when I haven't. I've just put it back into photo mode. I know Jordan Drake from DP Review found that he was constantly, when he turned the camera on, he was constantly flipping it over to video and not having it in stills because it's on one switch. I haven't come across that. I find it no problem at all. So again, it's another one of those design features that some people will really like, some people won't. I like it as it is. I don't have an issue with it. It's got a various function buttons on the top here. It's got a multi-function button, so you can use that for selecting. Well, you can actually pre-assign it for pretty much whatever you want. I've got it still pre-assigned for being a multi-function button. So when you push the button in, let's just turn the lens on. Don't like these designs of these lenses where you've got a when it's in its off, well, I call it off mode, but when it's in its compact state, you've got to turn the wheel because you get an error message on the back of the camera. You've got to turn the zoom wheel to get it to work, and I've, not my cup of tea. But yeah, I got this function button on the top here set up just for selecting different functions really, and that works for me. I don't need to muck around that works for me. But the great thing is you can pre-assign quite a few of these function buttons. It hasn't got a plethora of function buttons, but it's got enough to make it perfectly usable and perfectly workable. It's got a nice function button on the front here, right in the middle of the autofocus manual focus switch. And again, that is very useful if you want to quickly go into manual focus, but it has got the autofocus manual focus switch. That it is preset when it comes out from the factory, is depth of field preview. I've changed that to screen brightness because I find if I'm outdoors, I want to be able to very quickly have it as a brighter screen. And I've got that set up on my R10 as well, and that's great. So I can just push that button in, and then the screen, it's so awkward doing it when you're doing it back to front. I can push that in and the screen will go, that's dull, and then it will go bright. And that's perfect for when I'm working outdoors and taking photographs or taking video outdoors. It's got on the top, it's got a multi-interface shoe, just like the Sonys have. So you've got a multi-interface shoe on the top there. Certain adapters, microphone adapters, Canon microphones will plug straight into that, so you don't have to use a mic lead. I haven't got any of those adapters as yet. They're quite expensive to buy. And 3-inch articulating screen. We all know about these things. Most cameras have them now. Nothing exciting there. And it's fully touchscreen, which I think everyone would know that with Canon. Their touch screens are great. So I can touch that to adjust exposure compensation, or I can adjust my shutter speed, my aperture, just by touching the screen. Quick menu, you can use it, touch the screen to get into your quick menu. Very, very adaptable, very flexible. As I said, it's got a 32 megapixel aps-c sensor inside, so you've got plenty of room there for cropping your images, and I think that is really good. I don't do a lot of cropping, but at least there is the flexibility. If you've got a shot a little bit too wide, you can crop in, and because it's a 32 megapixel sensor, you've got no problem. And it's pretty good in low light as well. In fact, it's very good in low light. I've taken images up to 6400 ISO. I've had no issues, you know, nice clean images. As far as video is concerned, very flexible and a very adaptable video camera, and that's another reason why I purchased the R7. It's got no video record limit, and it doesn't seem to overheat, unlike apparently the R6 does, and most of the other Canon cameras do tend to, apart from their cinema line of cameras. I'm actually filming with close-up shot on my R6. I'm hoping that it doesn't overheat, and there is a 30-minute record limit on the R6 as well, so you are restricted to filming your clips within that 30 minutes. But on the R7 there is no 30-minute record limit. It's got your Canon C-Log profiles, so it's got C-Log and C-Log 3. I've done a test video, I've done a sample video using C-Log 3. That'll be uploaded to my YouTube channel either before this video or after this video. And it's got many other, you know, video related features that I find, you know, really good. It's got zebras, manual audio level control. It's a shame that one of these function buttons can't be assigned for selecting manual audio control. On the Panasonic GH5, I'm filming my wide shot over there on my Panasonic GH5. I can set that as a function button I've set on the top, just go straight into manual audio control. It's a shame I can't do that on the Canon R6, which I'm filming a close-up shot, and I can't do it on the R7. The other annoyance with well, all the Canons I've found so far, certainly the R6, the R10 and the R7, HDMI out isn't clean unless you go into a specific mode which will give you a clean output. It shuts the screen off on the camera though, but it shuts the screen off in the other mode as well. So the minute I plug in a monitor into my R6 or my R7, my R10, then the screen doesn't work and the menus come up on the external monitor. And that's a really annoying thing for me, because I've got external monitors facing me, so I can, you know, check to see it's in focus, I can check to see it's recording, so on and so forth. But if I'm adjusting the settings, I'm behind the camera, so I mean I have to either turn my monitors around or unplug the HDMI leads. Very annoying. Sony used to do that, and I think they pretty much cured that. So on the Panasonic GH5, I don't have that issue at all. You only plug the HDMI lead in, it's no problem. It feeds to the monitor, but it doesn't it doesn't cut the internal monitor off from the camera. So you can still set your menus. Really annoying on the Canon, but it does do that. But hey ho, that's just one of those, you know, slightly annoying features of the Canon cameras. I've said about the two card slots. It's basically got two UHS 2 card slots on the side, 1 and 2. I found that a little bit annoying, how you set that up to record video on one, photos on the other, or setting it up to record RAW on one card, JPEGs on the other. I found it really fiddly for setting up, although the vast majority of people will say Canon menus are fantastic. I'm finding them a little bit awkward, but then again I'm fairly new to Canon, so that might well be what that is. It does have power delivery as well, which is another great thing here in the studio. I've got power delivery on my Canon R6, so hopefully that is working fine and I'm not going to run out of power. With the R7, it's the same as the R6 actually. You have to make sure you've got the correct LEP6HN batteries in the camera, and they've got to be the Canon, genuine Canon branded ones. Otherwise your power delivery or USB charging won't work. And also you have to make sure you've got a specific type of power adapter for that to work as well. Most power blocks won't work. You've got to have a power block that does support power delivery and has a high enough output. I use my MacBook Pro charger, certainly on my R6 and my R10 and my R7, and that works fine. I've also got a power block that is working with my R10. I have tested it and that does seem to be working on the R10. So that's basically a quick overview. Now, autofocus is fantastic on the Canons. Absolutely outstanding. I love it. What I've got set up on mine, I've got it set up on this. I've got it set up kind of similar on the R6, but it's not exactly the same because it's an older model. So your autofocus settings are actually that little bit different. But on the R7, I've got it set to spot focus. So you can, if I don't think this screen will see that, but if I move the screen, the joystick around, then the spot focus point will move around. I can see it is moving, but whether that will show up on the TV, I don't know. But so that's moving around there. But I've got IAF turned off because it's great if I'm photographing flowers, plants, something in the garden. I don't want IAF on. So that could. I have found if you're filming something like photographing clocks, it thinks it's a face, you know. So I've got that turned off. But what I've done, and I really think this is really smart, I've got the AF on button there, this AF on button. I've got that pre-assigned to IAF. But not only that, it's for people IAF or human IAF. So I push that in and it will pick out the person in the photograph. And that is, the image, and that is fantastic. But this other button, this star button, I've got that pre-assigned for animal IAF. So if I'm photographing, animals, particularly cats in the garden, I can just quickly push that button in and it will find the cat. And I mean, that is great. So I've got the two different buttons set up for basically, a similar function, but slightly different. I think I love, I really, really do love that. I was going to say, I think I love that. I really do love that. But it's also great that the Dragon, the touch and drag feature on the Canon is also brilliant. It's so quick. I find this so much quicker than using the joystick, although the joystick is pretty quick. So yeah, love the AF features on the Canon R7. The R6 is similar, but it's not as sophisticated as the R7. Apparently, it draws its autofocus algorithms from the pro level R5 and the R3, apparently. But yeah, there we go. So that's basically the features of the Canon R7. And the only other downside with the R7, say downside, for me it's a bonus, but a lot of people calling it a downside. There's only two lenses available for the aps-c models of cameras. For example, the R10 and the R7. The only two lenses they made specifically for the aps-c cameras is this 18 to 45. I think it's 18 to 45. Yeah, 18 to 45 kit lens. Although I like it. It produces nice images. Very slow lens. It hasn't got a fast aperture. And the 18 to 150. I'm using the full frame lenses, so I'm using the 24 to 105, this one here, which is a great lens. Again, it's a kit lens, but that's a full frame 24 to 105. So of course, that's going to be times 1.6 because of the aps-c crop factor. So 24 is going to be 30, I'll put it in the video what it is, but that'll be, won't be 24 to 105. But I like that, because it gives me a longer range. And if you're a wildlife photographer or a sports photographer, that works in your favour. That doesn't work against you, that works for you. The downside with using aps-c cameras and full frame lenses is the wide angle end. But that's why I like using the 16mm on this 16mm on the aps-c, because that gives me a nice 25mm. So it's not too wide. So, I don't have an issue with it. But it would be fantastic if Canon, and I'm sure they will, Canon start introducing more aps-c RF lenses, like they did with the EFS lenses, which was their aps-c lenses. What I didn't mention was how good this camera will be for vloggers. Now, I don't do vlogging. Many of you that know me will know that I don't do vlogging. I've got a bad shoulder, but this camera is actually quite light. And with its in-body image stabilisation, as a vlogging camera, works great. I've got the 16mm lens fitted to it, so effectively it's 25mm, but it's cropped in even a little bit tighter than that because I've got active steady shot, well, digital steady shot, as well as the in-body image stabilisation. And it only works in video, the digital stabilisation, but it's a great add-on. And there's also another mode, advanced image stabilization, but that crops it in far too tight. I think that works absolutely fine for me, as I almost tripped over them. This works absolutely fine for me. Now this camera does have external mic input. It also has a headphone jack, so that's great. The R10 doesn't have a headphone jack, this one does. And it's also got HDMI out, as I mentioned earlier, but it's micro HDMI out, so that's a bit of a pain in the butt. But I've just got plugged in my Rode wireless go in, no, not wireless go, my Rode video mic go on the top here. I've got it set to auto white balance, but manual audio control. That's great, you can set your levels manually. There's a great video camera. I also like the fact when you interchange lenses, the shutter comes down over the sensor, so it protects the sensor from any dust and damage, and that's really great. I mean, the camera has to be turned off obviously when you do change the lenses for that to work, but I think that's a great little feature. And you know, I said in the video I weren't sure if I would use that lock button. Actually, for vloggers, it's a really useful little feature. Push the lock button in, I can't accidentally knock the controls to change me shutter speed or change my aperture or whatever. So actually it's really useful, and I'm actually using that now. So yeah, great little vlogging camera, and even for me with my bad shoulder, because the grip is so good, I'm handling that, you know, nicely. I love the in-body image stabilization, and I'm just enjoying the camera. I still can't get used to looking down the camera lens and not looking at the monitor to the side. So that's another reason why I'm not big into vlogging. I also find if I was outdoors, you know, on the streets, I'd feel a bit conscious talking to myself and talking to the camera. But again, this camera is really compact, so it's a lot more discreet than a big heavy camera. So yeah, great piece of kit for vlogging. So let's now have a quick look at a few of the images I've taken with the R7, and it will be a quick look because there's no point, as I said to you, there's no point in me going into any detail with, you know, these images on here. But you can see the colours are lovely. Colour science. People love saying the word colour science, but Canon colours are fantastic. I really do like, and what I like about the Canon colours, they look natural. I don't know what it is, but with a lot of images that come off other cameras, other than Fuji, but a lot of images that come off other cameras, they look digital. They don't look natural. These look organic, a bit like film really, and I really like that. I don't know why, you know, but I mean, look, pin sharp, absolutely gorgeous. I don't know what lens that is, probably one of the kit lenses. That is the, yeah, that's the 24-105 kit lens. So, you know, a great image. The sensor, the 32 megapixel sensor is really good, and the images come out lovely. I did have an issue with, see, look at that, lovely. I did have an issue with the 16mm lens. I couldn't get sharp images, and the images were also, there was motion blur in the images, as if the IBIS wasn't working correctly. And that was like really bizarre. And even at higher shutter speeds, it weren't just slow shutter speeds. It turned out that there's a setting in the camera, I can't remember what it's called now, but there's a setting in the camera for that specific lens. The minute I turned that on, it was fine. The images come out beautiful. So I am finding I'm having to learn a lot about how you use these Canon cameras, where I didn't really have that issue when I was using Nikon, or Sony was a bit fiddly as well. But once you spend a bit of time going through the menu and setting things up, you're gonna get beautiful images and beautiful videos. So you can see just by these images how, you know, good the resolution is, and that's zoomed in 100%. I mean, you know, you're not likely going to be doing that. So as I say, I mean, look at the colour again, look at the yellows, look at the crispness of that, is just absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, so I'm not going to go through any more. You take a look at them on my Flickr page. So yeah, there we go. That is a very brief introduction to the Canon R7. Obviously I'm going to be doing a lot more videos about the Canon R7 and the Canon range of cameras. I really enjoy using them. So yeah, I say fantastic grip. They haven't manufactured an additional grip to go with this as yet. I think that you know, maybe they're not going to, I don't know. but battery life is pretty decent because it takes the LPE6HM batteries. Battery life is pretty decent, and you can still use your older LPE6 batteries. I've got loads of them. You can still use these old third-party batteries. They work absolutely fine, but you won't be able to charge them via USB or use power delivery if you're using you know, third-party or the old LPE6 batteries. But yeah, that's basically the Canon R7. No built-in flash, but you wouldn't expect it of a camera of this style to have a built-in flash. And I said, as far as the wheel on the back, I'm enjoying that. I'm finding that very easy to use. So yeah, there we go. That's the Canon R7. What my thoughts of it are. Just one more quick thing. It has got a lock button on the top here. I never use. That locks the controls. That can be useful if you're mucking around with settings. Well, not settings, but you're mucking around with setting the camera up on a tripod. I find it really awkward with every camera. You knock settings because you're touching the touchscreen. Using the lock feature, you can lock those settings off so you can fiddle at your heart's content and it's not going to adjust the settings. So I think that is useful, but I've not had the need to use it as yet. It's a shame that you can't reassign that as another function button. But you know, there you go. That's the Canon R7. So I hope you found that useful. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Hit the like button if you like the content of my videos. Would really appreciate that. It helps me grow the channel, and I appreciate every single person that watches these videos, subscribes and hits the like button. So that's brilliant. So thanks very much. Stay tuned for more videos relating to cameras, photography, podcasting, so on and so forth. Certainly more Canon cameras and lenses will be coming onto my channel. So cheers for now. Bye.